Thank you, Victoria, for pointing out I'm a minute late. I appreciate that. All right, before we get started, I'll just briefly read. On July 16th, 2022, Governor Baker signed into law an act relative to extending certain state of emergency accommodations, which, among other things, extends the expiration of the previous provisions pertaining to the open meeting law to March 31st, 2023. Specifically, this extension allows public bodies to continue holding meetings excuse me, remotely without a quorum of the public body being physically present at the meeting location, and to provide adequate alternative access to remote meetings. Meaning Freetown Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public can be found on the Town of Freetown website, freetownma.gov. Excuse me, that being said, I will call the meeting to order. Again, we are being recorded, and we do have a quorum. I thank everybody for meeting. I know we originally weren't going to meet tonight, but we did have this item come in. And there was some timeliness to this request. If I'm not mistaken, Warren, right? Your Mason may be in fact going back to the homeland.
Correct.
I'd like to, right. So
we'd like to take advantage of his skills while he's here.
Well, he's in country. I get it. So
right.
First thing on our agenda, we have a requested determination of applicability. This is 64 Narrows Road. The applicant and owner is Warren Berger. The scope of work is the moving of a retaining wall and removing briars with mechanical methods. And again, the mechanical methods weren't going to be my machine, but it was going to be by, I guess, weed whacker and lawnmower and stuff. Is that correct, Warren?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah,
I'm trying to avoid doing it myself and hiring somebody, but haven't come up with that solution. There is a brush hog machine that my neighbor has that he's offered to help.
Yeah. I guess what I'm getting at, we're not bringing in, we're not bringing in any tracked vehicles or any backhoes or things like that. This is simply going to be done with either push tools or hand tools.
That's my current understanding. Yes.
Okay. All right, so for those that are following along and those at home, if you don't have your email opened up, the plan and some supporting documents were sent to everybody. They are on our website, freetownma.gov. You can go to the Conservation Commission portion of the site. You'll see current filings. Click on that, and you'll see the paperwork and plan associated with this application. So Warren, why don't you just tell us a little bit about it? Victoria and I went out there, again, in her report, she states when we went out there what we saw and what you were wanting to do. But why don't you, for the rest of the board, why don't you explain what you want to do?
Okay. When we built the house in 2016 and 2017, we had a retaining wall that was put and a little bit of fill to flatten out the land, not much, but it was based upon the availability of stones and just to make something stable. It allows us to have a strip of grass anywhere from 3 feet to 15 feet wide alongside the driveway, but the actual land goes another between 8 and 20 feet before it begins to slope in towards the wetlands. There are brushes and vines growing on that slope. So below the existing retaining wall has been, mowed by me, mechanical means, and we're just looking now to move that wall, which is about 3 feet high, to move it to another somewhere between 8 and 15 feet to allow us to have an actual lawn as opposed to a strip of grass. It'll still be on solid ground. We're not intruding in any way into the wetlands, and we're staying off the slope. That slope is important to me to have a natural growth there, just to maintain to avoid erosion. So, my goal is to keep things as they are, but just to widen the span where the existing retaining wall can be moved to another section of flat land a few feet away.
Yeah, I think when we went out there, Victoria and I, you pointed out that you didn't want to do anything on the slope.
Correct,
There
right,
may be there may be some briars you just want to cut again, by hand or whatever, but because they're invasive species. But I think we talked about how important it is to keep that slope like that. So, and you agreed.
yeah,
And
absolutely,
just yeah, and in layman's terms, in a way, I'll try to explain again what we saw. It's almost two-tiered. To Warren's point, it's like a 2 to 3 foot drop. They've got a line of stones, and it's holding back. It's retaining wall is giving it a lot more credit. I mean, that's what
correct,
it's doing, but it's not, it's not your typical big old wall. It's just single stones placed,
right,
a couple foot, 3 foot tall. And the area just below it is mowed, but by putting and having that retaining wall there, it makes both spaces a bit unusable. I guess it's important to note, and we noted it when we went out there, that this is previously disturbed area. It's mowed, it's lawn. It's just you've got two unusable strips, and you want to make
correct,
one that's a bit usable. Maybe you can put out a couple lawn chairs or something. So
yeah.
the request isn't crazy or over the top, and it kind of makes sense. And maybe in the grand scheme of things, it was probably better to do it this way in the beginning, but hindsight's 20/20. So
Right.
um,
And recalling it a retaining wall, you're right. It is a little bit of an overstatement. It looks good, it's artistic, but it's not uniform blocks, which is why I'm trying to get this particular guy to do it. He has a way of making stone fit that not too many people have. So by having his skill, we can make it look natural and as opposed to preformed blocks or some other method.
yeah, I think that's important, right? That you, to you at least, it was the aesthetics of it all. So,
Correct.
so that being said, know that we're not going to be going down on the slope, and that I don't think I saw it on the plan, but we should talk about, there should be some sort of siltation control right there at the top of the slope, right, to prevent any kind of, washout or anything. And typically that's done either with in this case, you could use a straw wattle, the
Right.
silt socks, you could use silt fence. But it's important, and again, understanding this is not a disturbance that will go on for a very long time, but there will be some, and there will be a need to, and we want to, part of our job is to make sure we protect the runoff getting in there.
Right.
It's not very steep where that is. It's actually pretty flat, but I think that's why you could probably get away with a straw wattle if you wanted to. But some
Okay.
siltation control measure will have to be in place.
A question about the straw wattle. Is that something that
Yep.
I would leave afterwards?
No, you could take it up.
Is there a benefit
Wouldn't
to
be.
leaving it? That would it in any way
Well, so
help growth of
I would say this.
natural?
Couple
Yeah.
schools of thought. If you can get straw wattles or silt stock, right, that is made with local materials, right?
Yeah.
Then yeah, you can do that, and it's got a benefit. It'll benefit the slope to a certain degree, and other plants will take root within that over time.
Right.
And
Yeah. That's
there's nothing wrong with leaving that there. You just, the problem with hay and to be more specifically straw wattles too, is a lot of times the grasses and all can have invasive species in them. So
yes. Okay.
right, so you have other. That's why I say if you can get them and see about getting them. A lot of them will have wood chip filled, so that's not typically an issue.
Yep.
But when you get grass fields that are mowed, and that's a lot of times the straw that's used can have invasives in it, and so we're a bit more understanding of that, and that's why a lot of times we'll make recommendations to use other things. So in that case, that's why I say if you can find something that's made that's got wood chips, wood, wood,
Yeah, I do have
bark and stuff.
some leftover silt fencing, but I'll definitely look into the wattle with
Yeah.
local material, and before I move ahead on that, I'll double check back with you.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could touch base with Victoria and she could make sure and confirm
Okay.
what we're talking
Excellent.
about.
Yeah, I'll that's worth looking at.
Okay. And then the other part of this, Warren, and again, not to speak for you, but you've got and those that are familiar with this is on the new part of Narrows Road. Warren built that house, to his point, what, back in, you said 16 or whatever it was.
Yeah, 2016, finished 2017, right?
Yeah. And this is the old Seymour Kevelson property that was split up into three different house lots. And Warren's lot actually goes up quite a few hundred feet up the actual length of the new Narrows Road. And much like his neighbor just to the west came before us years ago, the water side of Narrows Road, where they own property, gets overgrown with invasive bullbriar.
Right.
And it basically makes it unusable. And that's the part that we were talking about, so that people don't confuse that with the slope that you said.
Correct.
That's the part that you're talking about, going in there with the brush hog and all. And we're not looking at taking down, trees, right? I mean, saplings, under a couple inches, right?
Right.
Not in
if there's-
diameter. I don't mean high, but I mean diameter. Whatever. it
Yeah,
is,
if there's
3 feet up.
anything 2 inches or greater, that I'd like to have it there.
Yeah, you're going to leave that there, is what
Yeah.
I'm getting at. We talked about that when we were out there. This isn't a wholesale. We're going to go in there and clear, make it a
It's
park.
not-
But
yeah,
you
it's not
said you
a
wanted
land
to cut.
clearing. No.
Right. You said you wanted to cut so it's usable, so you have you can walk and you had a bench or something over there, but
Right.
it just got so overgrown. Right.
Yeah,
And
you literally cannot walk onto the property unless you like being ripped apart by briars. Right.
that's why we refused when we got out there. We're like, no, we're good.
Yeah, it looks good from
So
here.
my point is, right, once you do this, after that, it becomes regular maintenance, right? And the Freetown, the Conservation Commission, is not in the business of getting into people's business about regular maintenance of their property, right? So once you go and clear it, and don't feel that you have to wait and file with us every time you want to go over there and clear that path and make it, and so that it's safe and usable. All right. I mean,
Correct.
I think you're doing the right thing coming this time. That way, no questions can be asked. But
Right. I don't want anybody to feel as if I'm trying to do something illegal or sneaky.
yeah.
It's a matter of being able to walk onto the property. And what I've found in other areas on my property is if I keep after the briars physically, just, a couple hours each week, just cutting by hand, you can eventually get rid of them.
Yeah. Get them down to a point where the deer still want to eat them, and they'll eat them down to nubs,
Right.
But once they get too big, the deer stop eating them. But,
Exactly.
all right.
I'll discuss that with the deer, try to get them to cooperate.
There you go. Anybody from the board have any questions, comments?
No.
Victoria, for going out there with me the other day, she forgot her jacket, and it was rather chilly. And a good job with the report.
Thank you.
I think that's what, you're welcome. I think that's to the commission members. I think that's what we can look forward to in the future as we move forward, is these site inspection reports with recommendations, and if need be, recommended conditions. And I think it's going to work out good going into the future. So thanks again. All right. If there's no questions, then I'll simply entertain a motion that we issue a negative determination number 3, that while the work is in the buffer zone, it will not dredge, alter, or fill an area subject to protection of the Act. I'll entertain that motion.
So moved.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Motion made, supported. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Aye. Margaret French.
Aye.
Margaret, aye. Keith Mello.
Aye.
Keith Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Motion passes unanimously. All right, Warren, we'll get that paperwork signed up, and Victoria will either she can call you and let you know to come down and pick it up,
Excellent.
or she can mail it to you. But we'll get that as quick as we can.
Well, I really appreciate it, and I would like to thank everybody who attended the meeting for taking their time, but also Victoria and Kevin for coming out and being patient with my undertaking, and I appreciate your efforts in general to keep this an area that we can enjoy.
Oh, well, you're welcome very much. Thanks again, Warren.
Thank you all.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Next thing on our agenda is the minutes from the last meeting. I read them over. I take no exception. How about you, Margaret?
I already talked to Victoria. The
Oh.
whole discussion on 13 Estelle got forgotten. Did you rewrite that, Victoria?
Yep, I added that
Yeah.
in there and then I sent
Oh.
them out again.
I don't remember getting it. Okay, hang on.
We can always vote on it next
If you,
time.
I was gonna say,
No,
if you
no,
want, we'll
that's-
just wait.
No,
Next time, if you-
no.
Alright, okay.
Hang on. I'm sitting in front of my computer.
All right, all right.
Oh, revisement. Oh, my goodness. Well, if that got put in there, that was the only issue I had.
Okay,
Mhm.
yep, it's definitely in there this time.
Okay,
Mhm.
oh, I see. I see. To extend the permit for 1 year. Okay, perfect.
All right,
I'm good.
all right then. All right, I'll entertain a motion that we accept the minutes as submitted, the revised minutes as submitted.
So moved.
Somebody
I'll
second?
Second. Oh,
Oh.
sorry.
Outstanding. Motion made and supported. No, that's all right. I'd rather have two than none. Motion made and supported. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Margaret French.
I,
Margaret says aye. Keith Mello.
Aye.
Mello says aye. Kevin Damaris says aye. Motion passes unanimously. If there is no other business to properly come before the Conservation Commission, then I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made support to adjourn. No further discussion. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Margaret.
I.
Aye. Keith.
Aye.
Keith says aye. Kevin says aye. Motion passes unanimous. Again, thank you very much. You guys
Thank you.
making yourself available tonight. Everybody have a great night and be safe.
Yep,
Have a
good
good
night,
night.
everyone.
You too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye-bye now.